Good morning, student. I am KK Yadav. Today I am going to teach you class 12's book Flamingos, first chapter, that is the last lesson. The last lesson is written by Alphonse Daudet. He was a French novelist and a short story writer. The last lesson is set in the during 1870 to 1871, in which France was defeated by Prussia, led by the Bismarcks. The French district of Alsace and Lorraine went into Persian hands. The new Persian rulers discontinued the teaching of French in the school of these two districts. The French teachers were asked to leave. M. Hamel could no longer stay in his old school. Still, he gave the last lesson to his students with utmost devotion and sincerity as over. One such student of M. Hamel, French, who dreaded French class and M. Hamel's iron rod, come to the school that day, thinking he would be punished as he had not learnt his lesson on participles. But on reaching the school, he found M. Hamels dressed in his fine Sunday clothes, and the old people of the village sitting quietly on the back benches. It was due to an order from Berlin. That was the first day when he realized for the first time that how important French was for him. But it was his last lesson in French. The story depicts the pathos of the whole situation, about how the people feel when they don't learn their own language. It tells about the significance of one's language in one's life for the very existence of a race, and how important it is to safeguard it. He describes in this lesson French started for school that day very late morning and was in great fear of scolding, especially because M. Hamel had said that he would question us on participle, and he did not know the first word about them. But he had the strength to resist and hurried off to school. When he passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. The bulletin board, that is a written news which has been placed in the corner of the city. For the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. He thought to himself without stopping. What can be the matter now? Then, as hurried by, as fast as he could, the blacksmith watcher, who was standing at the bulletin board, called me and said, "Don't go so fast. You have a lot of time to reach the school today." But I thought he was making fun of me. When I reached near the school, I feel that usually when school began, there was a great cry which could be heard out in the street. The opening and closing of the desk, lessons repeated in loud voice, our hands over our ears to understand better, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. But I feel that day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. Through the window, he saw his classmates already in their places, and Mr. M. Hamel walking up and down with his iron rod under his arm. I over the bench and sat at my desk. After some time, I saw that our teacher had on beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt, and the little black silk cap that he never wore except on inspection and prize day. Besides, the whole school seemed so strange and solemn. But the thing that surprised me most was to see on the back benches that there were always empty. The village people sitting quietly like ourselves. The former mayor, the former postmaster, and several other besides. Everybody looked sad. And House had brought an old primer, thumbed at the edge, and he held it open on his knees with his great spectacles lying across the page. While I was wondering about it all, M. Hamble rose up his chair, and in the same grave, The gentle tone which he had used to me said, "My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you, because the order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. The new master comes tomorrow. This is your last French lesson. I want to be very attentive." When I heard these words, what a thunderclap these words for me. That was what they had put up at the town hall. My last French lesson. I hardly knew how to write. I should never learn any more. I must stop there. All things I was thinking about this. Poor man, it was in honor of this lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes, and now I understood why the old men of the village were sitting there in the back of the room. It was because they were sorry too that they had not gone to school more. It was their way of thanking our master for his 40 years of faithful service and of showing their respect for the country that was there no more. While I was thinking of all this, I heard my name called. It was my turn to recite. What would I not have given to be able to say that dreadful rule? But I got up mixed up on the first word and stood there, holding on my desk. Suddenly, I heard M. Hamel say to me, "He would not scold you for this," he said. "Mr. French, you must feel bad enough. See how it is. Every day we have said to ourselves, 'Wah, I have plenty of time. I will learn it tomorrow.' And now you see where we have come out. Oh, that's the great trouble with Alsace. He put off learning till tomorrow. You pretend to be Frenchmen, and yet you can neither speak nor write your own language. But you are not the worst poor, little French. We have all the great deal to reproach ourselves with. Your parents are not anxious enough to have you learn. They prefer to put you to work on the farm or at the mills so as to have the little more money. And I have been to blame also. Have I not often sent you to the water my flowers instead of the learning your lesson? Then, from one thing to another, M. Hamel went on to talk of the French language, saying that it was the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest and the most logical, that we must guard it among us and never forget it, because when a people are enslaved as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had to key to their prison. Then he opened the grammar and read our lesson. He was amazed to see how well I understood it. All he said seemed too easy to I think too that I had never listened to carefully, and that day he had never explained everything with so much patience. It seemed almost if the poor man wanted to give us all the new before going away, and to put it all into our heads at one stroke. After some time, I saw M. Hamel sitting motionless in his chair and gazing first at one thing, then at another, as if he wanted to fix in his mind just how everything looked in that little school room. Fancy for 40 years he had been there in the same place, with his garden outside the window and his class in front of him, just like that. But he had to courage to hear every lessons to very last. After the writing, we had a lessons to history, and then the babies chanted their ba be bo be. Down there at the back of the room, old Hojer had put on his spectacles and holding his primer in the both hands, spelled the letters with them. You could see that he too was crying. His voice trembled with the emotion, and it was so funny to hear him that we all wanted to laugh and cry. Ah, how will I remember it, that last lesson? All at once of the church clock struck 12. Then the Angelus, at the same moment of the trumpet of the Persian returning from drill, sounded under our windows. M. Hamel stood up, very pale, in his chair. I never saw him look so tall. Then suddenly he turned to the blackboard, took a piece of chalk, and bearing on with all his might, He wrote as a large as he could. Why la France? Then he stopped and leaned his head against the wall, and without the words, he made a gesture to us with his hands. School is dismissed. You may go now.